No Borders, and our San Francisco 49ers back at you. Get to you after the intro. What up, Raj?
What's up, man? How
Bro,
we
appreciate you.
doing? Yeah. I'm glad to be here. How we feeling, my man? How we doing, Ryan?
Oh, good. Especially having you on. The only
Yeah.
thing is the East Coast Red and Gold podcast is going right now, and they're about to have the doctor on. And I tuned in at 5 o'clock, hoping to catch that, and turns out at 6:10 he's going on. So, kind of like kind of heartbroken that that I'm missing that show, but we're doing this one, and we're gonna have a blast. We're gonna be talking about
Good
some
time.
great stuff here. Yeah. Um, Everybody doesn't know Raj. He's got the inside track on some Niners stuff, so it's always good to make sure you are first thing subscribed, and that you've got the bell notification hit. Because not only does he come through during the day when news is breaking to tell you his side of it, how he feels on the situation, but also he gets little insights from time to time. So when he's doing his lives and stuff and he's chirping about some things, he's like, hey, look out for this. Something that might actually happen because it might be being spoken about in the what would you call it? The ether? The
The inner circles, but I try not
yeah,
to drop too much, divulge too much. I like, sometimes I'm my takes, but sometimes they're not more than takes. But yeah. Chop it up and then give my opinion on the Niners.
yeah. We got Christy Marie in the house. We got Rafael, Alberto. Uh, Christy saying hi, what up to us? Yeah. Um, so what's your thought of this week and how things have been going on? It seems like I heard somebody, I think it was on East Coast, or no, was it Pat McAfee? They were talking about how the combine is the new Radio Road at the Super Bowl, and how there's a lot of stuff that's really starting to come out of the combine. I wonder if they're trying to spice it up because talks of getting rid of the combine have been thrown out there the last couple of years. So I wonder if they're trying to make it a little more interesting, trying to break out more information to give people through this the dark times.
Yeah, because this like period after the Super Bowl is like dry time. Is like it gets boring. There's like trying to like post something. There's nothing. There's no news. So I love it. This week was great because there was yesterday with 49ers especially. I was sitting there. I was like, oh yeah, let's post it. Oh yeah, let's. I love it. I think it's great for NFL fans, and because you're right, it is more of this where you're starting to get more news. I feel like it's kind of been like that the last couple of years where the kind of leaking, the people are there, coaches are there, GMs are there, so you get the inner circles of the league are talking about so and so players. I think it NFL because in the past it was like, all right, you go to the combine, you meet with players, you talk to players. Now it's a little bit more. It's like you're seeing coaches and GMs, and they're talking about players they like, and a sense of what does this guy look into for free agency. Like John Lynch, they're going to get answers. They do a good job with the media trained, but people are trying to poke and stuff. But Matt Stafford went to the Rams. There was like leakage, coming out of they're going to be going to the Niners. I remember those rumors were kind of coming out, and then boom, McVay comes out and goes, this is a time where we're starting to see more news leak out, and I think you're right. Keep the NFL at the forefront of everybody's brain because the NFL doesn't take time off. Like it's not playing games, but the NFL loves to be in the spotlight. So I love this week. There's a lot of because I like posting content, so it was good.
Yeah. Um, we got sorry, Alberto talking about, did we hear about Bosa spitting beans on E-Man? Yes, that is actually coming up here in a little bit. We will be talking about the Bosa interview. Um, Christy, everybody, David McNiner, what up, sir? How's it going? Um, had something I wanted to talk to you about. It came into my head, and then I lost it. So let's go on. Let's
It'll
go on to
come. You know
something.
what? When that happens, and you're like, oh wait, let me out. Yeah, 100%. It'll come back. It'll
If it
come back.
if it
You know,
comes back, I'm gonna write it as a ticker and not forget it. When
okay.
so let's
Okay.
go into
Interrupt
the Bosa
me
interview.
if you
Let's
have
go into
to.
that. No, I'll just set it as a little question. But the Bosa
Yeah.
interview, what were your takes on that?
Yeah. No. So we were talking about this before we started off on how much I I really liked it because this was Nick Bosa. If you really think about it, and Richard Sherman's interview on a podcast. He's never done outside media. You know, his first podcast, but he was very well spoken. I really enjoyed it. I think he did a good job. You know, there's some huge, people. Obviously, one thing you mentioned to me was, it was a good point where you said, he's familiar with before, so I felt he felt comfortable. There was no negativity, comments. It was just boom, him in the room, just like me and you right now. So I think that was a good first podcast for him, a good first interview to kind of, and he can just lay it out there. And he like there was one point where he's like, okay, can we cuss? And he's talking about how, oh yeah, I want to win that Super Bowl and get multiple ones like you. And I only won one Super Bowl. He's like, oh shit, that was a good interview. You could just tell that he came in with the team, and he talked about how Kyle's challenged him, making him interview pre-speeches, like the captain speeches on Saturday. So you can just see Bosa's come out of his show because usually, the chill, monotone guy, but he's getting a lot more comfortable talking. I liked it, man. He had some interesting stuff he talked about, like his, his journey from, that was like a dark day. That was interesting to me. I posted that, and he says, I was like depressed. I was on painkillers. I was like, yeah, man, we go through shit too as, normal everyday people, but so do they. He had a dark time in the reigning defensive player of the year. It's pretty dope. But he also said, like, I wasn't satisfied. I want to that he's always working, man. Good dude. I really enjoyed it. What do you think?
Yeah, there's lots of things that I got from it. I also, real quick before I forget about this part, they were talking about when is Joey going to come over to the other side and do all this, and he's like, take a break, take a cut in money. Oh, that'll never happen. So it seems to me like Joey is all about his money. If anything was going to happen, it would be Nick taking a cut to bring his brother in. It would be like that. And which I see him making a decision like that. To me, how to put this, Nick Bosa doesn't seem like he cares too much about money. It seems like he not no, don't get me wrong. It's not like he's gonna play for vet minimum. Okay, he knows what he's worth. He's trying to get that, but it seems like he just wants to be on his boat. And he wants to eat right. He wants to work, and he wants to be around people that he likes. You know what I mean? You don't need a hell of a lot of money to do that. He's looking at things right now. Like right now, I pretty much am set for the rest of my life. I can live out happily. Just doing my thing. Plus, I think, like he was talking about, defensive rookie or defensive player. He said that wasn't enough. You could tell this is what does he want to go for? He wants a Super Bowl. He wants to be the best ever. Outside of this interview, somebody was talking about this. I can't remember what player he was speaking to, but they were on a bus or a plane, something, and he looked at somebody and says, I've got the toughest job in the world. And somebody's like, huh? And he's like, I've got to go up against Trent Williams every day. And you're talking about defensive player of the year is telling you he's got the toughest job in the world because in practice, you know what I'm saying? He has to go up against Trent Williams. So like that's the kind of mentality he has. He's like, there's always something better he could be doing, and he's always striving to do it. You know what I mean? He's always going to try and put himself in the best situation. What else? So E-Man, talking about E-Man coming back. I missed that the first time around. A lot of people clued in on the words more than me, but to me, that doesn't really mean anything. It I could see E-Man coming back and take a deal, but I don't see it being a huge cut, and I think that's what would need to happen to bring him back. But who knows? Who knows? Like they could meet in the middle somewhere. There could be that, because there's probably feelings on both sides. Because we did stick with Emmanuel Mosley through thick and thin. You know what I mean? We always gave him a chance. He always had a home with us. You know what I mean? Like, when nobody believed him, and we thought he was great. You know what I mean? Like, the fans love him. You know what I mean? From day one, they're like, hey, we like E-Man. You know what I mean? So there could be something. And the 49ers are like, man, can we really let him go? He's talented. He's extremely talented. You can't, right after E-Man went down, Travarius Ward was being interviewed, and he said something to the effect of like, now I'm the number one CB on the quarterback on this team, and it's because before he knew who was playing on the other side. He can't sit there and say I'm the number one QB when Emmanuel Mosley's over there. He knew damn well, and he was the splash. He was the splash. Yeah. So, is there anything else from the interview you could think?
Oh. No, but speaking on the Manny Mosley situation, is you're right. He big free agent signing last season, and even he knew Manny Mosley was the guy. He was the guy, and season Manny Mosley was having a Pro Bowl season, and what you said is the fans love him. He was an undrafted. Nobody knew who Emmanuel Mosley was. You know, Richard Sherman's there. He helped kind of groom him way up. The injuries were unfortunate through the seasons, but the Niners, they stuck with them, you know, as they do. They think that loyalty will help keep him. Now, unfortunately, he's probably not going to get as good of prior to his injury, right? He was ready on pace to go. So I think the Niners know that, and they say, hey, we got an opportunity for you to continue to be where you were if you could stay healthy and stuff. So it is going to be interesting, because there might be teams that will pay more than should, and that would probably be Houston, or the Jets, because they've worked with him. But the Jets have good luck. That eliminates them off the market. Miami would be another team because they have Mike McDaniel. So to me, the most to gain, though, would be Houston, because D'Amico knows him. He's helped him. He's been his DC. So I make him a little bit more. But honestly, I think the Niners really want him back. They've talked about it, at their exit interview first with Lynch and Shanahan. I think they mentioned it. And I know Bosa kind of dropped a little. He knew, the way he kind of said it was, with the man. But I don't think he necessarily was like dropped. He expects him to come back, because the Niners, know he's so good for this. So too, with him coming back and being healthy, like I think Bosa knows that this guy can come back, be healthy, this level, because Bosa's done it. And Mosley, from what I know, just reason was he was about to get extended. When they did the Dre Greenlaw extension, that was actually supposed to be a contract extension, but because he was playing so good, he bet on himself, and he was like, "Listen, unfortunately, he got hurt, so they gave that money extension to Greenlaw, which that money, but they were looking to extend somebody at time this season to move the money around and stuff, and for them, continues at this pace, we're gonna have to pay him a lot. Let's try to give him a contract now." But he was smart in this now, which if he would have stayed healthy, he would have got paid much more than he was going to at that. But now he's got to kind of bet on himself again. But I think he'll be back. It definitely was interesting. I don't see a lot of people mentioning him this off season, but that's a guy I want back. I want him with Lenore, who's kind of ascending, who had a really great playoffs. Ward, Sam Womack, cornerback core.
Yeah, I'd like to see Jimmy Ward stay, but I don't know if that's going to happen. I think there's a bad taste in the mouth from what he said, for what Kyle said to him about you either riding the bench or you're playing nickel. You know what I mean? I think there's bad taste in his mouth. I think and rightly so, he feels like he's been here long enough and he should, this and that and heights. And rightly so, Kyle's got the right to say, no, you're riding the pine or you're playing nickel, bro. And look, I love Jimmy, but Jimmy, we had to ride in the hot hand, okay? And it's not like you weren't a dog and a genius in the slot all year long. You know what I mean? And sure isn't what you wanted to do and what you wanted to put on tape for next year. I get it. But any team that's gonna slight you because you played nickel this last year, you don't want to go to that team anyways. You know what I mean? Uh yeah, I don't think Jimmy's coming back. Aziz, I don't see him coming back. Lenore, I see him coming back. Lenore's the man. He's gonna be that next guy that comes out and is just shut down for us. But I think it's gonna be in another year or two. You know what I mean? The guy's doing great from where we picked him. You know what I mean? Like you can't ask anything more from the man. Like he's already succeeded. He's already gone past what we expected from him. So he's this is all money right here. Well, everything more we get from him is all money.
It's icing on the cake. He's another 5th round pick, and the guy was fast, but obviously he had to step up because Mosley. So then that tells me, so if Mosley does go, big pressure, there's going to be a lot of pressure on Lenore. So I kind of want to have both of them there, just for the depth and back. Hey, can he stay healthy? Because he has battled injuries a little bit, so you need that insurance policy with quarterbacks, but you need that with the CBs because the year before, secondary was at this brutal point because of the injuries. You know, Sherman was gone. You had Jason Verrill called Josh Norman, and you know Drake Kirkpatrick, and that was so bad those days. So the more corners they can get that are talented, the better. And I don't think he's coming back. I think he's going to get a contract somewhere, and you know he probably paid nickel. But if you get paid as a safety, even if you're not the highest paid, it's a lot more, and that's why he was probably slighted. So I agree with you. But to Sean Gibson, on the other hand, we heard news that he probably wants to come back to the Niners. The Niners have mutual interest. You know, a couple of weeks to retire. So this was a big change. So with Gibson coming back, that's good for the Niners because they back for a year. They can get a safety, develop them like they like to do, and then Jimmy Ward can go somewhere and get. That's the route that's going to happen with the safety department. Draft a young guy, let him sit around and develop. Gibson coming back, being the vet, and let Hufanga continue. Gibson's gone. Hufanga will be your big vet, 4-year vet now. So I think that's the direct.
And I just want to clarify, Gibson didn't necessarily say he was coming back to the Niners. He said that he would like to come back and with the 49ers, and that was after he said that he wasn't going to come back. So he kind of in 2 statements said I'd like to said I'd like to come back, and then he said before that if I was going to come back, I'd probably want to come back with the Niners. You know what I mean? So you put those 2 together, and it means that he wants to come back, and most likely it would be with the Niners. So just want to clear that one up.
No, you're right.
For somebody
because then people misquote you and stuff, but no, 100%. And I think that's what's going to happen is he'll come back to the Niner so they can have him there for veteran mentorship. And I liked what he did last year. I was on Gibson last year.
Well, that production we were getting out of him, and once you start getting interceptions like that and you got them on both sides of those safeties, now quarterbacks are thinking, wow, I've got to throw underneath because anything over the top can be picked off because these guys are hungry over there. This is not a 49ers secondary that we've had in years that was getting turnovers like this. And I think that's why it was like, Jimmy, look, we love you, Jimmy. We love you. Totally, we love you. But this is something we haven't seen in years, and it's really helping the team out. You know what I mean? Like, if Jimmy, and I'm sure Jimmy kind of saw that, I'm sure looking back on it now, he probably sees that, but I'm sure at the time he definitely couldn't take that. You know what I mean? Because it's hard to step back and look outside of the picture when you're concerned about what this has implications on your contract for next year. You know what I mean? Which players shouldn't have. You know what I mean? Like there shouldn't be. You don't want these types of thoughts and like Christian. Let's go to this one. Right. Well, Christian McCaffrey was talking about how he knew he might be traded that week that he got traded, and that he was he was warming up like for an extra hour or something, just trying to make sure he was warm and didn't hurt anything in the middle of practice, because that would cause a whole bunch of issues. You know what I mean? It just caused just a bunch of issues if all of a sudden he got hurt right in the middle of this problem. And he didn't even know he was going to the Niners. He just knew that something might be happening. So, real quick, let's answer David McNiner's question. If you had the choice, you had to sign one or the other, James Garoppolo or Carson Wentz, who would you go with?
And if I could pick neither, I would, but that's not how it works. I'm not a sleep would go Jimmy Garoppolo over Carson Wentz. I really would. I just cannot deal with Carson Wentz. Been given a lot of chances, similar to Jimmy. A lot of like injury. We want to talk about injuries. Carson Wentz too, man. He's sprained both of his ankles on the same day. That's all I gotta say about Carson Wentz. I get it. If he was QB3, I guess that's not a bad situation. But if I had to gun to my back, I'll take Jimmy over Carson Wentz.
I'm not going to do it. I know where it leads. Okay. I would rather have Wentz suck, and I mean suck, than Jimmy to be moderate and everybody to go, see, he's amazing, and have to deal with this all over again for another year. Besides, I know what Jimmy's got. You know, I have not seen Carson Wentz in a Kyle Shanahan in Kyle Shanahan's system. You know what I mean? I've seen other systems, but I haven't seen him in a Kyle Shanahan system. And who knows? Maybe Kyle can work up plays for his underthrown balls. You know what I mean? Like, hey, this is the pass, the defensive pass interference play. Okay, he goes out like 10 yards, and then you throw it 5 yards short, and he comes back 5 yards, and then we'll get the penalty. You know what I mean? Like,
no, man.
Maybe Kyle could draw it up.
I hope we don't have to make that. I hope we don't get Carson Wentz, but right, we haven't seen what he can do in Kyle's offense. And I don't know. I guess he's better than, and again, it would be a QB3. Break glass in case of an emergency. The glass, if you have to break that glass, and it's Carson Wentz, I mean, you're if you get to that point, right? Anyway, so I mean,
Jimmy Garoppolo or Carson Wentz, or Jimmy Garoppolo or Andy Dalton.
I'll go Andy Dalton on this one. Actually, I think he's got a decent arm. I think he could. I don't think he's horrible. I mean, he's not the greatest, but like you said with Carson Wentz, I would Andy Dalton could do in Kyle's system. Not so much Carson Wentz, because again, the injury issues with getting rid of Jimmy because he had the injury issues and all that stuff. Carson Wentz is no better than a girl. I would be worried if you get Carson Wentz and he's supposed to be your emergency quarterback. He'll probably be onto the field. So I'd take Andy Dalton in that case.
What up, Crazy Juice? Thank you for stopping in, sir. Yeah, Andy Dalton, it seems like most of his issues come when he tries to throw down the field. You know what I mean? And with Kyle's system, he doesn't really have to make all these throws down the field. And Kyle can scheme it to where when he says, hey, Andy, I need you to hit this guy down the field, he can make it where he's pretty much open. You know what I mean? How many plays we've seen where a guy is standing completely open in the field because somebody broke the defense? You know what I'm saying? Kyle breaks defense. So I heard, who was this? It was, he's on the Pat McAfee show. Darius Slay. Is that who it is? So he was talking about, he's like, I think he was talking about Kyle Shanahan specifically. He's like, if you see this, it was a wide receiver open in the field. I can't remember who. It was probably Ayuk or somebody like that. He says, this is not like the play, somebody messed up on the play. He's like, you're talking about, at this point, you're talking about guys who know their stuff. If they're in the playoffs, they're doing this, they know what they're doing. This is when you break the defense. And Kyle breaks defenses. That's why you see people totally open in the field, because he breaks the defense. He knows exactly what their assignments are, and he knows exactly how to work through it to make it so they have dilemmas. You know what a dilemma is?
Yeah, they have to choose. Should I go A or B? Which guy am I going to cover? And you're absolutely right.
And neither one is a good choice. That's what a dilemma is.
Yeah, either you're screwed. Yeah, you're screwed.
Yep.
And that's why Kyle's such a good game designer, because he can kind of see things. It's like I always go back to the play in the NFC game against, it was the NFC Championship game against you. That kid was going to draw that penalty, and he like called it before. Like I always go back to them. Like, before it happened, boom, penalty, flag. The ref's like throws the flag. No, instantly. He could sit there, see the play, and he's going to scheme something up just based on formation.
Or like even when he told George Kittle, look over your shoulder and then make your break, and it'll be a touchdown. You know what I mean? And it was. He looked over his shoulder, made the safety, or I think it was a safety or the linebacker, whatever, bite on the in-cutting route, and then he broke out to the outside where there was nobody. By the time the linebacker looked to see where he was, because he had already cut in inside, he's already 10 yards away. You know what I mean? You're not catching him.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Like,
so, yeah.
That's why
you get a guy like Dalton, and he would probably be he wouldn't be bad in. I mean, that's a good emergency to have. A guy like that. Yeah, I agree.
Let's go into the CMC interview. Now, this one was long. I remember sitting there going, damn, what time is it? Like, how long is this interview? If you go, it's on Bussin' with the Boys. It starts about 36 minutes in, I think. About 36 minutes in.
Yeah.
And he goes for an hour. And, man, there's so much insight into Christian McCaffrey's upbringing and mindset that... Do you kind of got a man crush now? You got a little bit of man crush?
Man. Before, like, I was one of those people out there that was just hyped out on my mind with the thought were coming out. I was like, please, let's get him. And people are like, no, you're crazy. After seeing him play this year, and then after seeing this interview with Bustin' with the Boys, I was like, dude, this guy is the man. We got this guy. I think Kittle tweeted out the other day, like, it's crazy that CMC is on the north. Like, several months later, we're still flabbergasted. And you're right. Like, this was such a good interview. I was to it on the way to work. I was driving the other day, and I was like, damn. So I had to watch it again when I came home. I watched it again, and it was so good, because you're right. There was so much information, and it talked about how, he knew it still made him mad, that this team traded him, and it's like he felt and made him work even harder to prove the Niners, like, yo, you got a guy that's going to come into this locker room. And, man, and the way he talked about this locker room, something we always hear about how great this locker room was, but he just embraced them. They didn't think he was this, like, cocky showboat guy. He welcomed them with open arms. And this guy, he respects the team. They respect him. And he wants to even be better. Like, he's like, they didn't get to the Super Bowl, and he's still upset about it, kind of like both in his interview. And you could just see their goal is to win that Super Bowl. And even this new guy that came in, like, day one, he knew, like, man, let's. And even though he left the Panthers, he was still wanting to, like before he got traded, he goes, I don't have a chance. Like, even he still believed in that team, even though they weren't that great. They were going through some stuff. He had this goal even in training camp, even though we weren't a great, team, whatever. He goes, I know anything, but we knew we could rally off some wins. So, total team player, man. I just love his mentality. He's just such a hard worker, and the guy is just so good at football. And then when he talked about how his dad kind of was just so tough on, and then how he's family, and I don't know, man. CMC is he's just built different. The guy's a monster. Nick Bosa of the offense, just chiseled. He's hard worker, no nonsense. He comes in, goes to work, comes back to work, and just grinds, man. I love that guy. Yeah, 100%. Def man crush on him before. Go watch this. You will.
I think Bosa, Kittle, and CMC all had the same type of fathers. If you're gonna play this sport, okay, you don't have to. You don't have to by any means. You don't have to. Go ahead, do whatever you want. I don't care. But if you're gonna play this sport, there's a way you go about it, and this is the way you do it if you want to be successful. And you could tell, like, George and his pass blocking. Like, his dad was not. Look, George, I don't care how many balls you catch. You got to be a good blocker. You know what I mean? From day one. What do you think his did? His dad's an offensive line coach. Like, you're not going to make an offensive lineman. I'd love you to be an offensive lineman, son, but you're not built for it. That you make a better tight end, but I can help you with tight end. You know what I mean? Same thing with Bosa. Bosa's father, look, he's got pedigree sons that are defensive ends because he was a defensive end back in his day. And he told them all, this is what I do. You're hitting the weights. You're hitting the weights. You're hitting the weights because that's the biggest thing. You're worrying about your form. He made sure he was like Bosa was talking about, I went to Ohio because Ohio's got the best coach when it comes to form. Okay? Best coach when it comes to form. And then I was really lucky because I came to the 49ers because Coach Kusarik is the best coach when it comes to coaching his scheme when it comes to it. He comes up with the best scheme. He's best for coaching the players in the scheme. So you put all that stuff together. CMC went as far as to get double-sided tape when he was 8 years old to tape his jersey to his pads so he didn't get jersey tackled and didn't get grounded for it because his father was going to ground him for that. He was also made
a crazy story.
He was also made to hand over his cell phone and go to bed at 7:30 at night because it was football season and, in school football. He said when it came to football in school that this is when, the strict. Other than that, it was like, do your own thing. And what Christian said, which really like, made me feel good about him, was he said, and I realized, going to sleep at 7:30, and it didn't really matter to me because I liked accomplishing the goals I was accomplishing more than what I was missing out on by going to bed at 7:30. You know what I mean? This team is made up of guys like that. And and if you watch the Busting at the Boys interview, you could tell both those gentlemen, Will Compton and who is it? It's
Taylor Lewan.
Taylor Lewan, yes. Both those guys, like, they know what's in the locker room. They're like, bro, you got some dogs there. Like, you got some, like, they stop short of saying you've got some Hall of Famer in there, and that team should already have multiple chips. You know what I mean? That you could tell that it's like they're all just waiting. You know what I mean, for it to happen because it should be any day now. You know what I mean? Like, and to get that,
they were listing out the players. They were like listing out the players, and I think it was Will. Guys got a stack. They were like, this team is stacked. Like, holy smokes, bro! Like, he was like, this team, Warner, Trent Williams, and then when they were talking about Trent Williams. They were like, that guy's a monster. And CMC, I'm glad I'm on his team. And it was kind of like similar with Bosa. Was like, I have to face him in practice. You said it was like, yeah, okay, Nick Bosa is running around the league dominating these other linemen. Because that against this dog, Trent Williams, and CMC too, he has to go up into this locker room and wants to impress people. He has to come to work because you got Kittle on that field, Debo on that field. Like, they're no. It makes everybody better. You got these special players with this mentality of, like you said, Christian McCaffrey at a young age. Like, okay, you go in, you put in this work, you go to bed early, you wake up early, and he's still doing it. Like, he's still doing that. And Nick Bosa, he trains all off season to enjoy himself a little bit, unwind, and then boom, Monday comes. He's interview earlier this season. I can't remember what week it was, but he goes, they asked him, what's your routine? He goes, go home, eat something, call my brother and go to bed by 8:30. He's like, I'll go to bed by 8:30. I'll wake up early and the day starts. It's like, that's how they are, man. And this team is full of great disciplined players, and that's what it is. It's just a discipline. See, man, him coming to this team was amazing because they probably, like, you have the younger players. They, oh, wow, he's a great player. That's what I got to do to be great. So it rubs off on the younger players. To have a guy like Christian McCaffrey, how skilled he is, but to understand what he had to do to get in. You're right, man. Eventually, this team should win a Super Bowl because they're this immaculate group of players. So hopefully it's soon because you don't want to go through these guys not get a ring. It was kind of like that Harbaugh era. So many good players, and you're like, damn, how did Joe Willis, how did Justin Smith, how did they not get a ring? So hopefully they can figure that out, man.
You've got like 5 potential Hall of Famers on the offense and like four on the defense.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you could be 5 on the defense. Well, Jimmy Ward 6. Hufanga could be a Hall of Famer someday. You know what I mean? You got Aziz. We don't even know about Aziz and Greenlaw. They could possibly be there too. It's crazy. There's a lot of talent on this team, and yeah. Speaking of talent, let's talk about some free agent D tackle talent.
Woo!
Who
the
you
number
got your
one
eyes
in our
on?
Well, I did have my eyes on Deron Payne, but he got franchise tag, so my heart and I was sad. But maybe Justin Hargrave, but that's another guy. I don't think they're tough because there's not really too many big names out there. And again, I don't know if they were going to be able to. They just re-signed some of their guys. They got Kevin Givens on the market. Hassan Ridgeway. Maybe you bring them. I don't know. There's not too many huge DTs on the market. Again, last year, but his price was a little bit too much. So I don't know if they're going to spend that much on the interior D line, especially with Bosa, the guy that you need to, make sure you lock up and extend. But he did mention this offseason in his exit interview that he's not necessarily looking to be the highest paid guy, even though I'm sure he will be. Kind of like what you mentioned too on his interview that he's the most concerned about money. I know his brother is. But I don't know. DT is kind of interesting because I feel like the best guys that the Niners are going to go after. Again, I would love Hargrave. He's probably my number 1 franchise tag. But I don't know. What about you? What DT do you have your mind on?
David Onyemata off the Saints. Both the guys I've been looking at are on the Saints. I have a feeling they're not going to be able to retain a lot of people. So David Onyemata is a 3 tech. You could play him as a 1 tech, I guess, but because we would try and play him as a 1 tech, but I think he'd be great as a 3 tech. He'd be great as a 3 tech, and then you get also Shai Tuttle from the Saints. He's a big rock of a guy. Yes, I started watching a lot of. So I seen Shai Tuttle's price tag. He's like $2.5 or something million, right? So and what I was watching is teams weren't running that much with him on the field because like I wouldn't see any run plays when he's on the field, and then when he's off the field, then they start running the ball, especially like against like the Eagles. The Eagles did not want to run with him in there, and they were double teaming him all the time anytime he was in there in passing downs. He also, well, not every time. One time he was single up with Kels and he pushed him back into Minshew. But it seems like the only time they do crack a run on him is every once in a while he'll cut across the face of the center and he'll take himself out of the play, and the running back will cut up the middle right behind essentially where he evacuated. And that's not an issue to me too much because we got such great linebackers that it doesn't matter if he gets out of the way. You're just opening up a bigger hole for the linebackers to see what's going on, and that's a bad thing for you. Because he takes people
100%.
He also
he's a monster inside, that would be a good sign because again, you need a big run stuffer because that's what DJ Jones did, man. He used to come in, eat space. He was a good shoot too. Like he was just so good off the block. Like as soon as the ball snapped, the guy was just centers. Like I remember Seahawks that was like one of my favorite plays. DJ Jones, I can't Seattle at the time, but he snapped the ball, bro. He's like throws him across the field, and like that's the kind of defensive lineman we need. Interior, like just a ball. He'll plug your gaps, stuff the run, and then if they do get past them, time off that, off the clock. So Greenlaw and Warner are able to move again. That's something we didn't get to see from Kinlaw. Like Kinlaw doesn't do the interior line because Arik Armstead can't do everything on himself. I know he can't do everything on himself, and he's not getting any younger. So if that's the guy we get, I'll be happy, man. Somebody with some talent in that line, we need, because you can't rely on some of the guys we got. Khalil, we don't know how much snaps he's going to give us.
And I think David Almamata is like 5.6 million. I think maybe 6 million.
Yeah.
And the reason why I say him is because I seen Shy Tuttle numbers, right, and I was like, hey, that's a bargain deal for the Niners. You know what I mean? Even if they give him a raise, that's like it's in their wheelhouse right there. That much money,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then as I'm watching tape, I'm like, who's this number 90? Who's this number 93? And then I'm like, okay, we got to get number 93, but he's not what I'm looking for right now, but we got to get him anyways because the guy's great on stunts.
Yeah.
It does. I think he could be a great like first and second down. He could be our 3 technique, move Arik Armstead out to end, Shy Tuttle at 1 tech, and then Bosa on the other edge. I think that would be
That'd be nice.
gnarly defensive line.
I just worry sometimes of throwing Arik because they've done that so many times. I feel like he just doesn't have the speed off the edge that you want in a guy. But you're right. You bring Armstead back inside, so it's definitely worth the move because the Saints D line was last couple of years. Cam Jordan obviously gets all the hype, but those other guys in there, they're definitely for them always putting pressure on it. So I'm like, God damn, this D line is good. So I'd be happy.
Well, you could put Arik Armstead and have him stun inside, because like David Amamata, like I was saying, his outside stunts are really good, and so if you put Arik going on inside, I mean, he can actually use more of his abilities because he actually rushes well from the inside. You know what I mean? Like that's really his bread and butter. So if you put him on the outside, put him at a different angle, matched up, you know what I mean? I think he could get better success because he's got the big long arms. Put a paw on somebody's shoulder and get right in between the gap. Then you're in. You know what I mean? Well, you got somebody coming on the outside for contain.
I mean, hey, if again at the end of the day, as long as they're improving that D line and they're getting after we need to get after quarterbacks. Because last year, I felt like Nick Bosa was all alone out there, but he was just worn down, man. And that's the sense I got today. I got the sense when I was listening, and that's tired. That's a man that needs some help. So again, if I definitely want in this free agency, and you're right, $2 to $5 million. That's definitely in their wheel. Huge maneuver before you get to the draft because you don't want to rely on those youngsters, especially with Kyle. The way they develop these, years to develop that scheme, and with Kasurik, he really takes his time to hone his craft. And Bosa talked about it today. He can get these guys in, and he knows how to scheme them up to steal, and that's exactly what we're looking for.
Christy Marie says, Ryan, I agree with you what you said on Mariah's show about Purdy. I really believe he's hurt too. Raj and Ryan, do you guys think Purdy's hurt more than we think? So I was talking about the postponement, maybe not even necessarily being because infection, like they're talking about infection. I'm not saying that's not a thing, but if that ligament's swollen, you can't put a brace on it, and then it reduces the swelling, and the brace be on there the way you want it after it reduced in swelling. I don't really see that being a thing. You know what I mean? I don't know exactly what they're doing, but to me, it doesn't sound like, like if you break your hand, while your hand's swollen, it's not like they put the cast that you're going to have for the next 6 months on, or the next couple months on for, you know what I mean? Because once your hands, the swelling in your hand goes down, your hand's going to be moving around in there. And how's your bones going to heal? Are they going to go back together? So that was my point. And I was also saying, like, pushing this back, if he's not ready to go now, and you're talking about a professional who does this all the time, thought he would be good to go by now, right? And now we're pushing it back 2 more weeks. You know what I mean? And if he can't go for the surgery in 2 more weeks, to me, that just means he needs a full job. He needs the full UCL. Just because of the injury. Because if you can't get in there with the swelling, that means it's really fucked up. You know what I mean?
I mean, it's definitely a possibility. It could be that they're optimistic and they want to think best case, but there is a possibility that when they go in there, they're looking at right now. But I feel like definitely, he's 22. You don't want to like this guy's career up. You have to make this is a tough decision. And again, if the swelling is not 2 weeks ago, then that does tell me that okay, maybe it is a little bit more significant than what it initially, because you would suspect that swelling comes down in 3 to 4 weeks if tear and your mind physiologically. But if you get to it, maybe is still a little bit more than I want, and the surgeon saying that, maybe in his mind he's like, all right, this might be more severe than what I thought. Just to be on the safe side, let's calm down on the swelling, because there are, operating with too much swelling, there is a risk for infection, joint stiffness, and neurological impairment. Tough situation. It's kind of like God, man, it's so tough because you want him to heal, you want him to get better for him mentally, but at the same time, you don't want to rush it because he is young, and this is a big. In a sense, though, I do see that maybe it is a little worse than we won't know until they actually go and look in that elbow. And again, hopefully, from John Lynch was yesterday, he will be meeting with the surgeon this week. Maybe he's meeting with today. Who knows? We don't know what it is. At some point this week, he's going to meet with them, and as early as next week, there should be a surgery. He says as long as everything goes well. But again, let's say he meets with this. Oh, this is still too swollen. Then they got to push it back again. So what you're saying, worse than we initially think. So we'll have to see. It does make you one thing that Lynch followed up with when they asked him, like, is this still a 6 to 7 month? That's what they're hoping for. But he says, he says at this point we have to see and there. So they're not going to guarantee anything because they have to brace. And Lynch is smart for worst case scenario, because what if they go in there and the surgeon's like, oh shit, we do have to. Then yeah, it's going to be a Tommy John repair. Sorry. Then it is going to be a little longer recovery. So now has to kind of think of worst case scenario where they're hoping they get good news when they go in there. Cool, brace ourselves, but you'd be a fool not to brace yourself for worst case scenario.
Can you explain how the swelling causes increased risk for infection?
So when you're when you're swelling and you have edema, obviously there's hardware. So if that swelling gets into the hardware, your body's naturally thinks it's a foreign object. Obviously it is. Normally when you go do a surgery, it's going to have increased swelling. Your white blood cells are just going to be like, whoa, we got too much things going on here. Getting joint stiffness. So it's just a big risk when you have any type of order. Okay, because when they open up the joint and they put in hardware, that right there is a risk for up when there already is previous swelling at the area. Because when you're when there's swelling, there's already dead tissue in the area. There's like gunk in there. It's an inflammatory process going on, and that inflamed tissue, in a sense, is for being infected. So you want to calm all that, get that gunk out of it, get that swelling down, open it up, and there's just a high amount of swelling already, and then you're inserting something, the body's going to start attacking more because it's already attacking, to get that swelling down. So it's just in terms of creating infection. So that's why they usually want to wait till there's a certain swelling. So obviously there's certain markers they're looking for. They look at they take blood tests, and if again your white blood cell count is elevated, they don't want to go in there and throw more. Then your body's gonna on the fritz, like, well, we got all this nonsense in his elbow. You're in fucking infection city, and that's not good. So anytime you have any orthopedic issues or inflammation and more swelling and infection, also blood clots, when people Obviously if you're older, you're not as mobile, so they want you to walk, but if that motion, there's a risk for blood clots. So there's just a lot of issues that go on with and he's 22. It should go well, but you never know. And you just got to play it safe because you just never know.
So worst case scenario, Purdy ain't here by week 1. What are the quarterbacks? What are the 49ers needs at quarterbacks? I personally believe we bring in a backup. Everybody's talking about how you're going to get a veteran quarterback to be a quarterback 3, and I'm having to explain to people that Brock Purdy ain't starting week 1. So therefore, he'll be whoever comes in, the vet quarterback will actually be QB2. And if we remember what happened this year as far as our quarterback and other years, we can get a couple games of the season and lose our starting quarterback, and then that quarterback, the QB2, is actually a QB1. So, I got a little a tiss with a jackhammer today. But I just want to explain that. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was just going to say it's an interesting situation.
Yeah, to think that somebody doesn't want to come here and play in Kyle Shanahan's system where they might get a look, and they might look really good if Brock Purdy can come in and look good. I'm sure there's some quarterbacks that took note of that, and whether they stay here for a long time or not, all they need to do is get in for a couple games and do well, and they can get a good contract. So I don't see it's actually as hard as everybody's talking about. I just think we need to be smart in the draft and pick up a quarterback that actually has some potential and not just a camp arm. Because I think that's, for the future, because if Trey Lance and Brock Purdy both work out, can't keep them both on the same team. Yeah. Right? So if Trey shows his ceiling, right, and we're like, oh, yep, that's the guy we thought he was, and Brock comes back and he's exactly the same guy, we can't keep both of them for very long. You know what I mean? So we'll have to do something smart and trade somebody to a good team and, get them a good situation. We're still going to need a backup quarterback, and why not start looking at them now when we've got to fill these needs anyways just to get through camp? So I see them drafting one, and I see them bringing in an undrafted free agent from after the draft. So at least 3 other quarterbacks. I see us having 4 quarterbacks in camp.
They're going to have 5, and one of them is going to be on injured reserve. Brock Purdy. Like what you just said is exactly the picture I'm painting in my mind is, okay, if Brock Purdy, like we saw last year, and Trey Lance hits the ceiling, you got an issue. The 49ers as their franchise, right? That's a good problem to have. If Trey Lance sucks, you got Brock Purdy, and hopefully they both suck. Or if Brock Purdy doesn't come back at what he was last year, you got can be a quarterback 1 until you figure out who the hell is going to be QB1 of the future. If they draft a guy who has some talent and not just some Joe Blow off the street, they're just getting there for camp. You go get another young quarterback, develop them. Worst case scenario, because the 49ers quarterback luck, again, and any quarterback knowing that coming to this team, or any quarterback, they've seen what's happened. Like George Kittle said it best. He goes, I've never played with the same quarterback through my 6-7 quarterbacks. It's crazy. That right there tells you all you need to know. This team, but I agree with you. And I think people are saying, how are they going to get a veteran to play backup? Veteran quarterback. They're thinking of Aaron Rodgers, Lamar Jackson, the sexy picks. And of course, it would be amazing. Going to go get Aaron Rodgers. They're not going to have those guys walking through the door. Derek Carr. They're going to get a mid-tier guy.
They're saying they can't even get like a Mariota or a Brissett. Like those guys wouldn't want to come here. And it's like, that's ridiculous.
The 49ers, not just with coaches, but with players have a second chance or third chance in their career. Like, look how many people we've Arden Key. This guy was a bust. He was like an LSU, killed his career. He comes in, he got a big contract from Jacksonville last year. Okay, he's looking like a NFL. Kerry Hyder, he came in. Obviously, it was an injured year. A lot of players were he led our team in sacks. He went and got a lot of money for the Seahawks. Came back, and the 49ers can make someone elevate. Jeff Wilson, he went to Miami because they found him. So I mean, any quarterback knows they can come to the
Jeff
49ers.
Wilson drafted?
If he was undrafted, he was an undrafted player.
And
now he's
what
probably
did
going
the Miami Dolphins give up for him? Third rounder?
Was it like was it fourth or fifth round pick? I believe a fifth round pick. So I mean, you get a pick that was higher than what he gave you. So I mean, that Niners are so good at developing players and making them hit, look better than they. So imagine you get a guy like Marcus Mariota. He knows if he gets a chance and do good, nobody's gonna give him a starting job because he flamed out many times. He's a first round. If he can hold that clipboard, and if the injury hits this 49ers team, which I hate to say, knock on wood that it doesn't, but if it does, and he gets his name called, he has a golden won't have on another team. And the 49ers offense is amazing. If Marcus Mariota can come in, lead this team to victories, his stock goes up, and he knows it. So I think I like that. They would, and I think a player would take a pay cut. And also, the 49ers are going to chase a championship. So it would be smart. You play for a championship caliber team, a great head coach, a good front office. That insurance policy has to be cashed in. Your call is going to be answered, and you're going to be a hero. And everybody wants to be a hero. So I think it's a good place for a veteran quarterback. Again, the Carson Wentz's of the world, the Gardner Minshew's of the world, they know they're not going to get a starting job, but at least they could and put some pressure on Trey Lance in training camp and make their name known, because that's going to, you know what? You kicked ass in preseason, and now if there's an injury, you're definitely, because again, Kyle wants to win games. This guy's name is getting dragged in the mud every year. He can't win. The quarterback could come in and win games. He knows he's going to look smart taking a guy like Minshew and had to come in. So I think it's a good situation. I still think, like you said, you draft a quarterback position. They have two young quarterbacks on rookie contracts that they're going to be able to take advantage of. And if man, everything goes well. But if he doesn't, you got some insurance. And either way, in good position. So I think it's definitely a big part of this.
Think about this. Trey Lance comes out, struggles a little bit, does good. Brock Purdy comes back. You know what I mean? Healthy, right? Doesn't take over for Trey. Doesn't need to. You know what I mean? Then you've got that Marcus Mariota on your team. We're coming to the trade deadline, right? You got a team. Somebody needs somebody. Oh, you can get some really good capital out of that right at that time. Oh, your quarterback just went out. Well, we got Marcus Mariota right here. You know what I mean? There's some wheeling and dealing you could do. You don't have any. You don't care about him. He was here just to feel a spot. It's not like he's Trey Lance. It's not like he's Brock Purdy. You're not attached to him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's just, it's horrible to say, he's just a place setter. You know what I mean?
That's it.
He's not going to necessarily.
Yeah. That's literally what they want, is an insurance policy, because what happened last year, this year, and we don't like. I think the whole point what John Lynch was trying to say is, we don't. Johnson has to be our quarterback. We don't want that anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then if you could draft a guy and just put him on the training squad, the practice squad, and then you're set. You're set, because then you got those guys coming back, or you got Brock coming back. You don't even have to keep the Marcus Mariota or the Jacoby Brissett next year. You know what I mean? Because hopefully the guy that you drafted this year will be your Jacoby Brissett or your Marcus Mariota for next year.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You're talking about a 1-year placeholder that you can have somebody who can run an offense for you, and you don't have, horrible drop off. You know what I mean? Like Josh Johnson or CMC drop off. Another thing about CMC, um, in that interview, he was saying they were like, "Couldn't you doing something this and that?" He's like, "Bro, I tried." He's like, "I messed up. I was trying to call one call on the double reverse and I messed up. They've been giving me crap about that." Oh,
Yeah.
and then there was the was in the Bosa. Oh, it was the Bosa interview, and they were talking about Eric Armstead on the goal line with Jalen Hurts and how they were tormenting him about that.
Yeah. Yeah. Because he was so I think Sherman asked how they're going to review the rule, and he's like, "Yeah, Armstead could have had one of the greatest sacks in the history. Stood there, but obviously Armstead tweeted, he's like, I thought I was going to get called for rough for the passer." It's funny because these players are probably all like, "Oh, you just stood there." Like, he became a meme that night because I remember they were like, "What the fuck are you doing, Art?" Like, they could have came back and won that game, but they didn't put Zeke at center or whatever, and actually got a real playoff. But breath, like, what the tackle safety, like that would have been a huge play. And it's funny to see the play with CMC that they're like, "Bro, you can't even call a play in the huddle." But that's why we need a quarterback huddle.
Yeah, and people, I'm like, look, I'm willing to pay anywhere between 8 to 12. Okay,
Yeah.
and that's reasonable for who we could bring in and to give somebody a shot. There's people who want a prove it deal. We got prove it situations. Who would have thought that Brock Purdy, the 7th round pick, was going to see any playing time? And he had what, 9 wins in a row, 8 wins in a row? You know what I'm saying? He played that many games. Was able to keep the team in playoff contention and go. So anybody that thinks that this is a third string quarterback situation with the injury situations we've had is not thinking things clearly.
Like, Brock, his injury could spill into a little bit longer than we initially thought. So if Brock's not ready in third, or if he doesn't pan out, like he's struggling, you need a guy that can come in and manage the game, like you said, and not lose games. So to me, it's a super big need for this team. I think is what everybody's thinking of it as, but it could be QB2 because right now Brock Purdy is going to be on the. Let's be honest with ourselves. So in all intents and purposes, this is actually QB2, and then we got it, like you said, you have to see where Trey Lance is. Let's just 7, and Brock Purdy's fully clear, and Trey Lance is like 5-2 in the 9-8. You don't need to bring Brock Purdy back, but if Trey Lance is hurt and you're like, "Oh, thank God Brock Purdy's back, let's put him back in the roster," because he showed mid-season you can put him in, not lose any step. They can look good with him and they can win games. Then you got a good situation. But now doing good. Brock Purdy he's not healthy at week 7. Then you have that other guy that can come until Purdy come back. So to me, that's a win-win situation. And like you said, the quarterback that they draft, guy, that insurance policy next season and beyond. So it's smart news to me. I think move yesterday when they asked, Lynch that, and I thought that was the right. That's good news to me. Twisting it and saying, "Oh, they're still going to go get a quarterback, even though Brock Purdy and Trent." I was like, "Come on, that's not the way he said it." But the media.
Yeah. Talk about kind of a big thing. Third Juwan's back. Somebody's got to dish out a lot of money to get him, and yeah, which, well, not a lot of money, but they got to put up some good capital to get him. So I'm pretty feeling safe about him staying. This is kind of our guy that we lean on when we need to. I think this is actually pretty clutch, and they did it in a sly, sneaky way, because I don't think they sign him next year. I think this is just a way to keep him for one more year, because they're going to have to pay BA, and they can't pay BA and Juwan Jennings at the same time. So this is the sign that we got one more left with Juwan. We hate to see this moment go, because man, we love this guy. I remember the call where he's got tears running down his eyes. He's so happy just to be drafted, because I think
Mm.
he listened to what everybody was saying about him, that he was too slow, he was too this, he was too that, and he started to believe that he wasn't going to get his chance. And I think when John Lynch called him, he just was so, overcome with joy to not only be an NFL, but to be with the Niners. You know what I mean? Like, so it's gonna be sad.
No, I love that we got the tender offer to him. Obviously, he's just says formality, sign it. But I mean, I don't think he's for another year. You get the tender offer, $950K, and then after this year, with the rules and free agent. So for him, if he wants a big contract and he wants to get a lot of money, and then I've this is a contract here for him, and he's going to go out there and play his ass off. That's what it tells me, which is good. You got to get that if you want to get more money in this league and get a bigger contract, go out there and play your ass off. And we know this guy. He's to be in this league. Be happy to be on the Niners because this fits his mentality. They love to block. He's gritty. Good guy for Kyle Shanahan's system. He, to me, is what everything we thought Jennings is. He's that dog. He's going to block you, going to bloody your nose. He's going to go out there, catch those hard, the red zone catches. Like, he's that fucking dog, man. Tight end / wide receiver, hit you in the mouth. He's going to make those clutch catches. Love him, man. And if we lose him this next season, a big contract somewhere, and he'll deserve it because he's going to put in that work. Like, this guy works amazing blocker, great teammate. He's already talking trash to Tariq Woolen. I love it this offseason. On like, hey, yo, keep running that cover 3. Don't worry. I was like, damn, he's taking shots at Tariq Woolen. I love it. So this guy loves the culture with this team, and I'm happy he's running as a dog. Yeah. Now.
You can always tell the bitch on the defense in the defensive secondary because they're the ones who are trying to get in a fight with Jawan after you just, manhandle them. Like the normal players, they're like, okay, good, you got me. You know what I mean? Like, good job. The bitch, like, you can't do that to me. Well, obviously he just did, and that's why you're all upset and out of pocket. Yeah, like, stop being a little bitch.
They get so mad. You're just a tight end. But okay, that tight end just worked you when he had his wide receiver, and then people are like, oh, you're a fourth receiver. Okay, but when that fourth receiver got his opportunity, that's what it is. And they're so upset that they got beat by a guy that they don't think is qualified to be a wide. If he had the snaps and the reps and he was given that opportunity, I'm sure he would do really good at that. Man, that guy, he gets under their skin, man. People get mad. They start pushing him back in their feet. Just gets under their skin. I love it, man. I love how just nasty he is when I think he was punking Diggs the other year in the playoffs, man, and a menace out there. I love him. I love that mentality. You need those guys. The 49ers are like one of the biggest bullies on the block for the Niners. I love them.
I think every wide receiver should want to learn how to block and block well because it gives you an extra move in your arsenal. If you've got a play action play going and you've been blocking all day, right? It's not a run, right? But it looks like it, right? Like everything. So just go like you're doing, like to block, and people are going to try and get around to look around the other side of you. And when they make that move to get around, you cut and go the opposite direction and you're free and open. Like, I don't understand why wide receivers wouldn't want to, be doing this in the offseason. Let me be the best blocker because, well, not that you block, but that you're a good blocker. Because if you're a good blocker, defensive backs know I can't let you get close to me when you're trying to block because you're gonna you're gonna get a hold of me, you're gonna push me out. I'm gonna be a highlight reel. Everybody's gonna be talking on Tuesday like, what'd you do here? Why'd you let him get your hands on you?
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So once you make that reputation, it gives you that space that you need. You've seen George Kittle do it. George Kittle does it. Yeah, he's looking like he's gonna block down on something. Was that one play where who was it? Who they got? I think it was the Dallas Cowboys. They blocked down on people so much that when one time they expected to get blocked down on, they didn't. The guy fell down his face because he was expecting the chip from the linebacker or from the tight end. You know what I mean? So that's another one. He released or went upfield.
Like there's times where Kittle, he'll like fake. He ran many years ago where he like fake blocks, fake falls, does all these like weird because he does schemes it, bro. He'll have you sit there do the same thing, play after play, and then the defense. One time you don't do that, the block or whatever, and you go out for a route, they're like, oh shit, I thought he was gonna wide open. And like they say, the no block, no rock. That's exactly why you do it, because you keep the one time you don't, and the defense isn't expecting it, you're wide open. Boom, big chunk play. Offense they keep running similar play. They set it up for that big play. Jennings is one of those guys that he's so good at. Just continue. He can keep doing it. When you need him most, he's gonna come out and make that clutch play. Man, I don't know how many times he's bailed. Oh my God, Jennings. And you sometimes like the defense, they gotta know it's going to that guy. If he's having 4 catches on third down, he's gonna be targeted, and he still gets it. It's like holy crap. I love the guy. He's gonna get paid.
Remember the NFC Championship against the Rams? We needed that first down, and he caught first down, and 2 Rams players came up and grabbed a hold of the ball, and he dragged them across the line of scrimmage with them attached to the ball. 2 grown men, highly adequate football players, and he pulled them across. This is my first down.
Grown man strength, Ryan. That's what he had.
Yeah. And it's sad that you kind of got to let him go so you can keep a guy like Brandon Ayuk. You know, you want to keep them both. You want to keep them both because they work so well together. I don't know. Maybe in a perfect world. Maybe in a perfect world.
And it's crazy because he was a 7th round pick, man, and we turned him in good, you know. But again, that's the business, and that's why you draft players and you hope they develop, and you're so good at getting these late round guys that become very important to the team. He's like a great, like, man, I don't know where they'd be without the guy. Obviously, he's not a star. He's not a superstar, but his team, he makes some big plays. They wouldn't have won certain games without his big, his times where he was the best player on the field on a Sunday. And it's like, man, 7th round pick, the players that we've had on that field, it's amazing to see. So I get it.
Do you know
he might leave next year, but he'll.
Do you know about the drama between Jalen Hurt and Juwan Jennings?
Jalen Hurd and Juwan Jennings?
Jalen Hurd.
Jalen Hurd. Oh,
the guy
you mean the guy that we get?
The broken wide receiver? Yeah.
No, wait. There's beef between Jalen. No, I got it. Tell me the drama.
So Hurd used to be at Tennessee, and he was running back, and he wanted to switch to wide receiver, and they're like, "No, we got Juwan Jennings. We don't want you as wide." He went to Baylor as wide receiver, and then came out, and then we got him. He couldn't play, and then we get Juwan Jennings.
Is that why he went to Baylor? I know he switched positions because he was a running back, and they had Alvin Kamara. He was like, "Well, I'm not getting the ball because Kamara, so let me go switch." To me, I thought it was because bro, I didn't know that. Then the 49ers go and get Jennings, who ends up crazy.
And he works out, actually, and he's, a pivotal part of the team. He's actually the guy we wanted out of Jalen Hurd. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's 100% crazy.
Except Jalen Hurd would have been better. Better in like the route running, I think. I think it would have been way better. But
I mean, the guy
Juwan's
he would have been was supposed to be the wide back, but Debo became the wide. The way I look at it is that type of guy because he was a running back / receiver. Like I felt that was his role, but that's crazy to me. I can't believe that.
Juwan has what I like to say. I think I got this from the Pat McAfee show. He's got a heart of a plumber.
Oh.
You know what that means?
What's that mean?
plumbers work long hours and do the shittiest job, like literally the shittiest job. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Dealing with water, and so you're wet, and also water. Water's a pain in the ass when it comes to having to deal with it. You know what I mean? It's just one of the most finicky things you have to deal with. Like electricity, yeah, it can kill you. You know what I mean? But water is gonna just mess with you every single time. You can't just like stop it. You could turn electricity off. You know what I mean? Sometimes you can't stop water. Okay.
It's true.
So
Oh shit.
it's just
it's a thing you just can't stop, and you can't. Sometimes Juwan Jennings is just something you can't stop, and it. So yeah, I like that. That's a good one.
It's like
he's a blue collar baller.
Exactly.
You're
there. You're doing the shitty job, but it only works. The world only works because of people like you.
You gotta
have.
You can't. Yeah, the world doesn't work without a plumber. Like you need plumbers in this world. Like those jobs. Nobody wants to be a garbage man. Nobody wants to be a plumber. But we need those to society. So Juwan Jennings on a football team is critical to the success of the 49ers. Like replay, but he does, and because of him, the 49ers offense succeeds. Him, Kittle, Juszczyk, they have picked up that blocking, regimen. And Brandon, you talked about it. He was never blocking. He'd run a route, catch the ball, and be great. And now, when he came to the Niners, that's what Kyle wanted. A route technician. I want you to block. There's more to being a wide receiver than just running a route. That's why you struggled when he first came, because he was like, "What do you mean I got to block?" But no block.
Right.
No, you got to learn how to block, my boy.
Because Kyle doesn't want to have somebody who can only be on the field for one thing, because it gives away his game.
He wants versatility. That's like Debo. Yeah. This guy was the perfect player for this team, because they were down to no running backs like before, and it was like Debo Samuel comes, saves the team because he could run, he could catch, he could do it all. He's a savior, and he knows you get a guy like that can do everything. It just helps the team. It's a tough, brutal sport. You get injuries, but if you get a guy that can help your team. Jimmy Ward, so versatile. He played nickel, he played safety, he played cornerback. He's done
at a high level.
It all. He didn't like it, but he could do it, and it was good for the team, because you're going to get injuries. So if you get these guys that can move around, and Dan Brunskill, this guy could play guard, he could play center. He may not be good at all of them or elite at all of them, but
he can patch a hole.
He can fill that role. Yeah, it up.
We got two more questions, and I'll let you get out of here.
No doubt.
Tabor Pepper signing. We kind of talked about this the other day in DMs. I had said that I thought this might, them going out and getting Tabor Pepper so quick, I thought was them trying to get the first step in bringing Robbie back, because I think that's what one thing they need, one domino that needs to fall before the draft. And so to put their best foot forward, I thought it would probably be a good deal to sign Tabor Pepper, his long snapper, essentially. You know what I mean? Like, if you're working with the duo, you know what I mean, and you've grown comfortable with Tabor Pepper snapping, you probably want to stay with Tabor Pepper snapping. So they went out first, signed Tabor, and it was like, okay, now they're like, hey, Robbie, what are your thoughts on coming back? You know what I mean? Because now, let's say Robbie wanted to go. Well, we can't bring Tabor with him. He's already signed, locked in.
Yeah.
So,
no,
what are your...
I love it. Like, he's a funny guy. If you see the personality, he's like, how George Kittle is just like humorous. Tabor Pepper is a funny guy. I've talked to him many times behind the scenes, and I thought the same thing as you, is you lock in your special teams core, because obviously a couple months ago they brought back Wishnowsky. They the next guy, so now you can kind of keep that core, because this what we talk about today. We said the locker room unit, the cornerbacks, the linebackers, the offensive players are so strong, and I feel the same thing with this special teams group. And I feel like bringing back, we got your boy, and I think they have a good bond, and it's when Kyle Nelson was there, man, Robbie was missing kicks, and it was just a bad situation. You bring in Tabor, and it's brought some stability department. And I think Robbie Gold was one of the guys that actually congratulated him the day the news broke. Oh, congrats for you and your family family, good stuff, man. So I could tell that, like, it definitely was a move. I think for that. They did. John Lynch did mention he's going to start looking at kickers in the scouting, like they got case. But I think they really want to try to bring Robbie. Obviously, he's older, but he's a great. If you get into the playoffs and you miss kicks and you lose a game because of a damn clutch kick, you yourself up. So I feel like the 49ers would want to bring him back 2 years, maybe. I think that's how much Robbie said that he feels like he has a couple more years left in him. Got a few records he wants to break. Chase that. I think that they do bring him back, and I think Tabor's a guy that's going to help make sure he bond. Everything I've seen, social media wise, behind the scenes, I kind of feel like they have a good vibe. So he was live. So Tabor was live a few weeks on Instagram right before the signing, and he kind of flew out, but he's like, I don't want to say too much, but I got the sense that he was going to sign back. I got some memes and some stuff to drop once all the news gets going, but I can't say too much back. But obviously, I don't know how that goes. I don't handle negotiations, but I think he's definitely come back, Robbie. We love you. So we'll see. I hope we get Robbie back. We need him.
Yeah. People are always talking about, well, you can't kick it so far and this and that, which are all, we can't kick it out of the end zone when it comes to kickoffs, which is good gripes. But at the same time, he doesn't miss kicks when we need him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if you know what his range is, then look, first thing, if we have to win games with 50-yard kicks, are we really playing football? Are we playing the football we want to play? No. You know what I mean? Robbie's there to when we come up short, we go all the way down the field, we're on the 20-yard line, and we can't convert. He's there to just make sure something comes of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's why I want the man around. He's also a consummate pro. And that's one of the reasons why I think he's going to stay, because it's everybody in the room that he works with, as far as his coach, as far as like Mitch Wisnowski. I'm sure him and Mitch have a really good relationship. Like, especially with Mitch doing the kickoffs before, I'm sure Robbie and Mitch had to do a lot of working together to get Mitch to kind of get used to do kickoffs.
Yeah.
So I think, and then you've got Tabor, who's, your long snapper. Like, that's your main man. If you're not, if you're the kicker and you're not, friends with your long snapper, then it's a bad situation. So, like, it's important. Yeah. So
it is.
I think this all leads back to Robbie.
You need cohesion on every. People forget about special teams, but you're right. Robbie is there to make sure that we can do the job. If you know what I mean. Like, if we get short, if we fall short, he's there to pick up the pieces and at least give us some. And again, you hit the nail on the head. When the Niners absolutely need clutch time, he doesn't miss, man. He doesn't miss. He's never missed a field goal in the playoffs like that of clutch. This guy has ice in the veins. And my worst fear is you're down 2 points. You need a kick to win the game. If you miss, you go home crying. And if we need a kick, I know Robbie's going to hit it. I know without a shadow of a doubt he's going to win the gold. That's what we need him for. And again, we're not worried about regular season and there to kick those clutch-ass kicks. And again, it starts with making sure that he knows he has a strong family. Also, he's been a captain on this team. To have a kicker be your captain says a lot about this guy. Is a consummate pro, just like you said. And a freaking kicker was your captain. Shows how much he is important to this locker room. You had Jalen Ramsey beefing with your kicker. This guy is needed on this team.
Jalen Ramsey's a child. I'm just saying.
He really is.
I can't remember who was talking about. I think it was Peo Time. I love Peo Time, but man, Jalen Ramsey is a little child. He got. I was trying to bring up. He he said something to him. He's a great open tackler in the field, and I immediately started laughing. He's like, "Why? What's so funny?" I was like, "Look, bro, he might be all the time get you, but I once you said that, I just remembered the Debo Samuel run." Where Debo starts on the left side of the field, cuts across, and then an total open field. Debo or Ramsey tries to tackle him and like just glances off of his hip pad as Debo goes to the house. I was just like, I'm sorry.
That was hilarious. And then the meme that followed after, and it was,
well, he's like,
do
you remember this? Do you remember this hit that somebody got on Debo? I was like, oh no, but hey, they got to get there. Glad they got theirs in sometime. You know what I mean? Like, look, bro, you're talking about one. We could talk about how he's rocked your whole team. Like last time I remember, was it last year in the NFC Championships? Jalen Ramsey came out like the first play. Debo got the ball, and I think he got a touchdown and was trying to keep going upfield after the marker, and Ramsey had to fall, and he put a great hit on him. He put a great hit on him, but he stopped his forward momentum. He didn't like knock him back or anything, and Debo's like, okay, popped around, went back like it was nothing, and Ramsey's having to collect himself because he just tried to tackle a truck.
Ran into a wall.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at Ramsey. Oh, he's such a hard hitter. And I was like watching the play, like the guy tackled Debo. Like it was just like he fell into a wall and fell down. And Debo was like, no, he lost a little bit of bounce, not much. It was just like he shrugged it off. But the announcer made it sound like he. And I remember Debo reposted it sometime down in the story in the offseason. Was like, and people were making really hit him, and he was laughing about it. Like, this guy barely made a dent on me.
Yeah, no, he stopped his forward momentum. That's what he did, which isn't a bad thing. Yeah, it was that. Like, you did a good job though. I'm just saying, like, the biggest play he made on him didn't look so big. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was because they made it sound like, oh, he stopped Debo in his tracks, and I was like, I mean, he was running full speed, and the guy bumps into him. But it wasn't a big hit. But the way they made it sound was like, oh, he hit Debo so hard. But he collided into Debo, and like you said, he had to collect himself. Debo's like, all right, whatever, going back to the sideline, hit him.
So, last question. We had some news today. This isn't necessarily, it could potentially affect the 49ers and their drafting. Jalen Carter, defensive tackle for Georgia, had 2 arrest warrants put out for him today, with misdemeanors for speeding and I believe racing, in the connection to the death of Georgia player and a Georgia staff member.
Yeah.
So this is a really taboo subject, which is kind of why I wanted to talk about it, because I kind of want to, see what people's thoughts are. This guy could be totally innocent of being the deaths. You know what I mean? Or he could be totally a part of it. We don't know yet. My question is we need defensive interior. The news of this is probably going to make him drop in the draft considerably.
100%.
Is he worth spending a draft pick on if everything that we can the team can find out that points that he wasn't involved in vehicular homicide or whatever it could be, like if they don't upgrade the charges on him? Is this somebody they might go after? It supposedly he's already had he might have issues. Like somebody was saying that, I can't remember his name. He was saying he had like personal issues, like behind the scenes.
So knowing the Niners, especially with their history, I mean, we've had some players in the past that have had some checkered history with this. To mind, Reuben Foster. I've had a little trouble with the law. I'll put it lightly, but look into the legal process, and that's what the 49ers do. Is they always look into players' character, and I mean, the guy is a very talented player. Obviously, one of the best schools in the nation. Georgia's, the players. He's a first round product. He's a top pick in the draft. Bottom line, he's a great. Gotta look at those character issues, and if there was character issues before, to me that tells me the 49ers wouldn't even make him slip, whether he did anything or not. I'm not here to say he did it or he didn't. We're gonna let the legal process figure that out, and whatever the case is. But whatever happens in the draft, whether he doesn't get picked and he's an undrafted guy, whatever happens, it has to be for this situation. And if there was anything there, they're not even gonna. They're not so many issues over the past with checkered players, with the red flag type guys, that they don't learn their lesson. A couple years back, I remember when Antonio Brown was rumored to the Niners. It was, oh my God. I remember that offseason very well because I was like I was one of the guys who was like, oh, it's AB coming, and I saw the rumors. I was posting it all, and we were like. Then I remember there was an interview. I think it was around the combine, around that time, and John Lynch and hey, look, on a guy like that, he has checkered it. Like, he's got a lot of issues, and that's how we want. We talked about, who did we talk about today? We talked about CMC. We talked about Bosa and their mentalities, and we talked about Juwan Jennings. Like, those are the guys they want on this team. But she is a great, talented player. If he has character issues, they're gonna not even want him. Because they've had these issues in the past, and they've learned. They did draft some players. With that, they did get a Reuben Foster, and it kind of hit him in the face. And even before that, Jed York knows he's this line before. We need to worry about that. So to me, even if he's available, I don't think they're not the guy, just because of that whole history.
Yeah, if he's got personal issues, if he's a diva, if he's this or that, yeah, I don't want him anywhere on this team. But if he was cool, and this is an unfortunate situation, I would go in after. But it sounds like with the rumor of personal issues and then him being a part of this, it just sounds like it's just par for the course, and that we're gonna get this again. Also, this is the other thing. When you're a big dude, you can pretty much destroy a lot of the people you see on day-to-day. I mean, like, there's a lot that kind of goes with being a big, strong guy, right? Like, you got to understand that, like me personally, I'm a big, strong. So there's certain things like I don't open. I give it to other people to open, because if I get resistance, I'm just going to crank on it, right? And I can break it, while somebody else who's maybe not as just strong as me is going to just open it correctly. You know what I'm saying? There's certain things that are like, there's, you know what I mean? Because it can't be as sensitive as other people. You know what I mean?
And that makes a lot of sense. Let's say you're opening a bottle or something, and you put so much force, you like crack. I'll probably put as much force as I can, and I'll just open the cap, and it's fine. But if you do it in your hand, so no, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
And if you get used to just being aggressive towards people to get what you want, I mean, after a while, this is just gonna and you get in a fame like these guys are, and that's usually what I think it is. It's the aggression to get what they want type of thing. You know what I mean? Because they don't hear a lot of people tell them no. One, because of their size. Two, because of their fame. And especially things like college. College football is horrible for some of these people's egos. Like, it just blows them totally out of proportion, and they think they could just do whatever they want, because in some of those cities and some of those college towns, they are gods among men. And this is the type of thing that this car crash type of stuff, the personality defects, that stuff is what boils and pusses over in situations like that. And that's why you hear so many people, like, trying to cover stuff up when these college players do things. It's just a big, huge cover up. And they're probably used to it by now. And they're like, oh, it's just one of our guys. We got to just tell him he can't do that again. You know what I mean? And making excuses for people. This is bullshit.
It's a slap in the hand, because you see and you want a piece of that. And also, they're intimidating you, fuck you, because they might beat your ass. And again, they're just so used to getting there. I remember like the big, great athletes, nobody wanted to step to them, and then they get into campus and they're like, oh my God, they can't do nothing wrong. And people give them a second chance, and they don't really have when it applies to the classroom. Like I was in classes with big, great athletes that, and they didn't even show up. They had people taking their tests for them sometimes. Who the hell is this? Oh, I didn't know that. Last day of class, who the hell is this guy? He's on the football team, but I've never seen him. But so you're right.
My grandma didn't think O.J. Simpson killed Nicole because, quote unquote, he was such a good ball player.
No comment on that one. Oh man.
Good old Mabel Agnes.
Oh man, good stuff, man. That was funny.
Oh, I'm telling you, she was so heartbroken when the shorts went away in basketball. She was so heartbroken.
Oh, wow.
Bro, I have never known an old lady in my life who was that obsessed about sports. You know what I mean? Like, she watched the soap operas, she ironed the clothes, she, did all this. But when the game was on, it was like she was more worried about watching the game than Grandpa.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Wow.
Like, yeah, and it was football, it was basketball, and it was baseball, and her brother was like a three or four sport letter, this and that. He played basketball and became a coach and a professor at the University of Kansas, I think, back in the day.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
He was pretty well off.
That's a big time school.
Oh,
wow.
He went to well, it was something in Kansas. Don't get me wrong. It was just something in Kansas, and I think it was
I was
Kansas
looking
State
at the coaches. Like, there's some big coaches in that history.
This was back in the day. He was probably born in like 1920.
Okay.
Yeah, he passed away years ago.
Oh, wow. That's a long life.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, grandma died at 92 and a half, all original teeth.
Genes, my man. That's good.
Bro, 90, all original teeth. She didn't lose one.
And when I see people at because I work in rehab, I see some patients. They're like I had a guy before, and he's like the husband of one of my patients. I was like, dude, he's walking around. He was looking good. He's at the primary care. Are you kidding me? And the wife was like 89. I see these patients. They're like 90, 89. I'm like, they look pretty good. Like some people look really good. And then I see people that don't look good, how people take care of themselves. And it's amazing when you see someone that old and they look, I'm always impressed. I'm like, God dang.
Yep. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, with that, I think we've gone, almost an hour and 40 minutes here.
2 hours, my man.
Yeah. You want to let everybody know what you got going for the rest of the week, where they can catch you?
Yeah, I got Dr. What's his name? Dr. Narav Pandya. He'll be on my show. The injuries with Brock Purdy and Trey Lance. So a little bit of what we talked about earlier on the show. We're going to of the injuries, why the inflammation is an issue. What's Trey Lance, recovery kind of looking like at this stage. So we're going to talk about those. I'm still working on getting Tabor Pepper on power issues during the week. So I'm going to touch base with them, hopefully get them on at some point. And then I got Akash on a Friday with me. So I got a couple good shows coming up. And then
when is Dr.
Hopefully we get
Pandya?
Tomorrow at 5 o'clock.
Okay. Yeah. I'll make sure to set my alarm, because I definitely want to. I'm going to have to go back and watch the East Coast Red and Gold podcast, because he was on there earlier. I suggest all you do the same. It was a great show all the way up to the point where I had to turn away at 6 o'clock to join here. So it's probably a 2-hour one, almost like this. So it's worth a good watch, I'll tell you what. Yeah, and I can't wait till you get Tabor Pepper. That'll be awesome.
I'm working on it. I asked a couple players, but are busy. But
I actually,
my next two guests should be Tabor and Spencer Burford. These guys are busy. So am
I
So,
actually owe Tabor Pepper a highlight video. I
gotta
told him
get
I
it,
was gonna
man.
make him one. I told him I was
Oh,
gonna make
gotta
him one,
do it.
and then yeah. Well, then they got the so I got to get the 22 back up running again before I do
Oh,
that,
yeah.
because you can't get
Gotta get it, man.
you can't get tape off of YouTube. You know what I mean? Nobody's
Well, you could get his. He had his like mic'd up. There was a mic'd up clip
yeah.
this year. Like
That's
you can get a little bit of Tabor
that's what you use for
clips from
B-roll.
that.
That's what you use for B-roll. You know,
Okay. Yeah.
that's what I'm using for. You have you made highlight videos?
Yeah. I used to do those, edit videos and like clip all those,
Uh,
get the film and all that stuff. It's fun, man. But it takes a.
It takes a long time. Holy moly!
Yeah, it really does.
I I made one. I don't know. It took me about a day and a half. I don't know. It's like an 8-minute long video. It was probably like 2 days. All together it took me, and it was You remember when Javon Kinlaw got called in to Grant Cohn?
Oh yeah. When he said my nuts are bigger than yours, all that stuff. Yeah.
So I saw Grant Cohn's interview where he's talking about you gotta, these are we are people. You gotta treat us like people. And I skip forward over to Brad's conversation with him where he's like, I'm an alien. I'm not from here, right?
Oh
So
yeah.
I'm just mixing all these
Yeah.
contradictory statements up right throughout the video. But there's an there's an underlying theme in it. This video is called Mook Beth, okay? Because that week Grant Cohn and his father were on, and they were talking about not only that, but they were talking about Shakespeare. So it starts off with Javon Kinlaw with the squirrel in his mouth, and that represents the Squirrel
Oh my
King.
God.
And he killed the Squirrel King. So at that moment, I found some footage of a North Korean propaganda cartoon where this squirrel is like the good guy, I guess. I don't know what's going on. It's some of the craziest shit I've ever seen. A children's
Oh my
cartoon, and
God.
they're gassing the heroes to death, and the other hero, the squirrel, like doesn't even care. Like it just goes on with its day. Like after you see these three cute cartoons just gassed to death. Anyway, so I've got this going, and he's trying to find Javon Kinlaw to kill him because it's the whole thing about Macbeth. So it's a
Yeah.
crazy ass video, but I had such a
It
blast doing
sounds
it.
like the fact that you use highlight first. I remember posting that when I was like, oh God, I don't want to post this, but my Twitter, and that shit went crazy. I was like, this guy is a menace. And comments I remember seeing from that, and just like that was hilarious. Like, and it became a huge meet. Like the fact that he's sitting there with the squirrel is hanging in his mouth. Like, I told you everything you needed to know. That.
I just got this weird idea. I was like, this will make so much sense, and it doesn't really. It doesn't really,
I bet it's crazy. But
it's crazy. But with that, I want to thank everybody for showing up tonight. Gosh, we had everybody: Brian Culp, David McNew, Mariah from 49er Faithfully podcast. We had 49ers Throwback, Christy Marie. Let's get a couple more. If I can remember.
A lot of people.
Platform 246.
Appreciate everybody.
Yep.
It was a good show. It was fun, man. We got to do it again, man. Hit me up. Do something again. We'll get something going. I had fun. We talked for 2 hours, man, and that was good stuff, man. Good times.
Yep. Bro, it's like I've known you forever. We're just sitting here talking about sports.
Yeah. That's it, man. I love it. It's good stuff, man. And imagine 6-hour show.
Oh, I did that once for the draft. Oh my God, it was 7 hours, and I was like, I'll never do that again. I might though.
Yeah, I did it before.
It's bad.
Fucking tired, but it was like it was good content. And then when I used to stream the games, man, it was reacting and stuff. It's just a lot of work, man. Just being live all day.
Well, I want to thank everybody.